The comment heard around the world: Donald Trump's proposed complete ban on Muslims entering the United States. Check out these new numbers on it. When all likely voters are asked their opinion, a majority, 57%, oppose it, while only 25% support it. But likely Republican primary voters are evenly split on it, about 40% on each side. And after 5 days of continuous controversy and harsh criticism, look at this. His favorability among Republicans virtually unchanged since late October at 51%. The Teflon Don rides on. Katherine, can anything hurt Donald Trump?
No, because the things that normally hurt a candidate help him. I'm surprised that the numbers have not gone up, and maybe they have. I think that there are a lot of people who agree with him, but maybe don't want to say that they agree with him, particularly on this issue, because the comments were outrageous. But outrageous doesn't matter. People like outrageous, especially when nobody else has any kind of solution. Like you were saying, he's offering something, so people are like, okay.
No, and in fact, while some people said that this was his most outrageous comment yet, Julie, a poll came out earlier this week showing that it made his supporters more likely to vote for him.
I feel really bad for people who want the One Direction, whatever that band is, to regroup, because that poor little kid is Muslim. He can't come here. George Clooney, I'm sorry, your wife will never be able to come here because she's Muslim.
Temporarily.
Temporarily. It's ridiculous. You're taking over 1 billion of the world's Muslims and you're saying to them, based purely on your religious affiliation.
It's ridiculous.
There's a religious test. We're now imposing a religious test.
Well,
is this what this country's about?
We've done similar things
insane.
in the past, 1921, 1924.
There's no excuse for it.
The acts of 1924 went on for 40 years where we limited immigration from a number of areas.
This isn't immigration.
Including,
These are visitors.
Look, Donald Trump, we're also quoting about half or a third of what he said in postponing, delaying, pausing for a few weeks while we see if our government actually knows what they're doing. And it's pretty clear as the days go by, we don't know what we're doing when it comes to the visas. How many of these K-1 visas have we had from Pakistan? Because my understanding is about 500 a year come from Pakistan alone. So about 5,000 K-1 visas a year, about 500 from Pakistan. That's 1 out of 10. How does that make sense?
But let me say this to you. The same fear was perpetuated about Jews trying to come here in the 1930s. Because
Here
people,
we
no.
go.
Let me say this.
When FDR turned away the St. Louis.
I'm sorry.
I'll go a step further.
Julie, it's not comparable.
Of course it
It's
is.
a really weak.
It's not a weak point because
Yes,
people had the same.
is.
Let me finish my point, which is
Yes,
people.
it is.
Let me finish my point. People had the same fear. These are actual Nazis who are posing as Jews, trying to come here and infiltrate our country.
Wouldn't you
the
say
same
keeping Nazis
racism.
First of all,
was a
let me jump
noble
in here.
objective?
Really?
First of all,
would I say that keeping Jews out of here
Julie,
because people had fears about them being
All right,
Nazis?
Andrea needs a chance to respond.
Julie,
No.
it's a weak comparison.
It's not.
It's a weak comparison. Look, Sandra, I don't think Donald Trump should have made it a religious test. I think it should have been a temporary moratorium on people coming from Islamic countries. I think that would have been a little better. However, this polling is big. And Kat, you're right. People don't answer polling honestly. You call and you say, hi, is this Sandra Smith at this address or this telephone number? Hi, do you agree with Donald Trump wanting to ban Muslims? What are you going to say? Most people wouldn't say yes, especially now that the administration says that they're going to come after people for anti-Muslim rhetoric. So they're not answering that question. Honestly, I bet that number is a lot higher, and I think more people support Trump than they are willing to admit.
All right, so I'll ask you the question that people are asking themselves in restaurants and bars and coffee houses across this country right now. Will he win the primary? And if so, can he beat Hillary Clinton?
Yes, he could. It's very real. No one thought he would get this far.
Yeah.
I mean, his numbers are not moving, and no one is really able to take him on and take that #1 slot. I mean, they're coming close, but it's absolutely possible. And I also think he could beat Hillary Clinton, no question. Why? Because he can make a play, as the Wall Street Journal so astutely pointed out, for those middle-class voters and those independent voters. Hillary would be in big trouble.
And she's awful. She's just awful.
But Katherine, I want to bring Katherine in on this because you hear from the right how crazy these things are that Donald Trump is saying, his contenders. But yet they're not championing their own message. Why aren't they winning or surging ahead based on these comments by Donald Trump that they say are so horrendous?
Well, they're not really pro anything. They're just anti-Trump. They're just saying, just so you know, this isn't us, this isn't us, this isn't us. And so how are they supposed to get their own message out there at all? What Donald Trump is saying about a religious test is ridiculous, but I think the fact that so many people are supporting it kind of shows how bad things have gotten in terms of not focusing on being safe and terrorism. And they need to make me feel like I would be safe and make people feel like I would be safe, and they have an actual plan rather than just saying Trump is an idiot.
And I think the problem is that everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid, and nobody looks at polling that shows that any Democrat would beat Donald Trump.
Well,
because of the fact that 2/3 of the American public doesn't agree with him. He has 35% of the Republican base. That is not enough to win an election.
Out yesterday
There's
showing
not
that he
enough.
would
I'll
beat
give you
Hillary
by who? By a legitimate poll?
Well, the Roginski Institute. I know I trust your polls that you're coming out.
You know
Julie,
what?
They're not realistic either.
This is the same.
Your candidate cannot get a more positive approval rating over 48%.
This is the same exact.
That is a problem,
This is the same exact stuff that I heard.
Hillary's keywords are liar, untrustworthy, and what's
from
the third one?
But the
and boring.
From the national polls.
Here's the problem that you're facing, right? It's the same nonsense I heard. We don't believe the polls. Mitt Romney's going to win. The polls are skewed. Everybody's lying.
Now.
And he's no Mitt Romney.
It's different now.
Okay, it's always
different now. And if the best you got is a comparison of a leader in Germany in the 40s trying to impose some kind of political ideology instead of a religion trying to take over the world
comparing him to
and
Hitler.
dominate. No, you just did.
No, I didn't.
And it was a bad analogy.
No, I did not.
Wrong.
When did I ever compare him to Hitler?
You just did. You just compared what he was doing to the Nazis, Julie.
Excuse me. I just said. Excuse me. No, it was not. All I said is that this country would not accept
Jews. You compared Islamists to the Nazis.
Excuse me. Go back to the record. All I said is that they would not allow Jews in because they were fearful that they were Nazis. The same way he's not allowing 1 billion something Muslims in because all of them are terrorists.
Well,
you cannot genocide
that way. Nazis are not the same.
This
in a time of
disagreement and the argument and the conversation the country is having right now probably just as heated.
In a time of war, you try to keep the enemy out. Okay, that is a perfectly legitimate thing to do.
Right.
And the one turning away the St. Louis every day is Barack Obama when he's denying the Christians from the Middle East safe haven here.
We got to leave it there. President Obama, speaking of which, getting ready to go at it alone on guns. His advisors finalizing a proposal that would use executive powers to expand background checks on gun sales. As Connecticut's governor announces he's also going to use an executive order to crack down on guns. How far will all of this go?